This is day 209 of Arukh HaShulchan OC. If you'd like to sponsor an upcoming Shir of Arukh HaShulchan OC or more, please contact me directly. It would be very much appreciated. We're, of course, still in Siman Kufnum Gimel, and we are doing today Sif Yud Zayin through Mirz Hashem Sif Chav Dalet. So, Sif Yud Zayin, we're still talking about between Beis Knesset Shel Krachim, Beis Knesset Shel Kfarim, Beis Knesset Shel Kfarim, the shul of a village can be sold. Beis Knesset Shel Krachim, the shul of a metropolis cannot be sold. Zayin. B'dash ein chiluk be'ezer mos nivneh. That's made difference with which money, with what money was built. The Kfarim afil nivneh in the davos shel olam in the villages, even if it's built with pledges, with gifts from all elsewhere in the world. Mutar l'macha, they're allowed to sell it. The davos were given on the cognizance of the Bnei Kfar. Krachim, and on the other hand, in a city, if they built it only from their own funds, they can't sell it. Came to Bekrachim, it's built in a metropolis called Beis Knesset, the Shemikolim Yabolis Palabo, Hava, no, let me parse that sentence a bit better. Since it was built in a metropolis, called Beis Knesset, any shul built in that metropolis, Adaita is built with the intent, with the understanding. People from all over the world will come to daven there. Therefore, all Jews have a portion in it. However, even in a metropolis, if individuals build for themselves a shul, they can sell just like a village shul. It's in the Furish Bagmara Shom. That's explicit more there, but Beis Knesset Shel Tarsim. Tarsim is like metal workers of some sort. Shel Yerushalayim Machru Ayin Sham. It's interesting when people came to America in the early 1900s, they used to build shuls based on Landschaft groups. In other words, people came from the same place. They built a shul together. So that type of shul, you also be able to sell, was built for the members of the group. The since it's unique for those workers of that group, or as some other minority of the community, only belongs to them. Only a shul which belongs in general to the city in a metropolis is not sold. And of course, in the individual village, even in that scenario, it is sold. Clarified that Moshe Beis Knesset Hanimkar, the money from the shul which has been sold, the shul which has been sold, and they retain their holiness. You can't change them. Or even to more severe kedusha. They can't take them down a notch. That's specifically when the people of the city sold it without the say-so of the the selectmen of the city. Or the selectmen of the city, they sold it, not in the presence of the people of the city. But if the seven selectmen of the city sold the shul when in the presence of all the people of the city, they use it for everything they want. Even for an optional activity. The money becomes chulin altogether. Bir Halacha says that that's only if there are selectmen in the city. But if there are no selectmen in the city, then mechira of the masses works as if there were 7 selectmen in the city. So the 7 selectmen are, according to Mishnah Berurah, are not essential. But when they're there, they're essential. You don't have to have Shiva Tabir. Maman Ansheir suffices. But if there are Shiva Tabir, they must be consulted. Not just consulted, it must take place actively in the sale. Back to Arukh HaShulchan. Ramban Ramran's tzeichlim at a time to kach titu chachamim. According to Ramban and Ran, you have to say that this is Beis Knesset is not out tonight unless it's made out tonight. You have to say this part of chachamim made such a takana. The Rambam near time mishum b'chatchila said das b'nei ir came. The Rambam again who said that this was an assumption that eventually shul would be sold. He says that this initially was the intent of the Bnei Ir. If the sale will be by the 7 selectmen A mama called ear in the presence of the entire city. Yotzel Gam Chulin, they go out completely to Chulin. Fabi Kedisha is nice there, and it's if they're makdish the shul on this condition. V'zesh Kushtam Mitzrichim Ma'aman Kol Ear Lav Dafka. And all the people at the present is not literal. Elishia Bes Game Kol Ear, rather the entire city should agree. Came Shiva Tova Ear Machur Bepirsum. Therefore, the seventh selectmen sold it with great publicity. That's called in the presence of the people of the city. Even though they haven't said a thing. Rak im lo michu so long as they haven't protested. Therefore, if some of the people of the city protested, the money does not become mundane. Similarly, if the people of the city accept upon themselves this time of the sale, anybody, whatever a certain individual does with the money, they gave him, they'll give the authority to him. Whatever he does is okay. And he can let them go to chulin to be mundane purposes. So the word Bira Halacha learns is talking about where the people of the city together, the Shiva Tova ear, appointed this person. But from the Arukh HaShulchan itself, it's mashma that we're talking about a similar case that the Mishaburi mentioned previously, the Lachlan mentioned previously, that there are no Shiva Tova ear, but the Anshe ear appointed a receiver who's going to be the one who decides what to do with the money, and that can work in lieu of a Shiva Tova ear, not necessarily a Shiva Tova ear involved, not necessarily that there are Shiva Tova ear. Actually, there aren't Shiva Tova ear, because there are Shiva Tova ear, you need to involve them. You test. Begam shel krachim. Also, it's of a shul metropis. Shamar shel sulin kol. We said you can't sell the filu b'no mishalem. Even they build it with their own funds. Chasar rabbeinu b'sies design. Avashkol v'chulei ein nikar and kei tolo so b'das yachid. It's not sold unless they made a contingent on the input of a certain individual. Because then that individual can do whatever he wants as long as the tzibur agrees. This is true about all types of kedusha mentioned here. The kulu agree beside based on this, they all are similar to a shul. Ad kan lashono. Klomar, meaning shebishas habinyan tolu oso b'das hayachid. At the time they built it, they made a contingent on the input of that individual. Does Yachal Asos Mashir so they can do anything he wants. Now, Ein Rabusa Klab said this is not a chiddush, says the Arukh HaShulchan. The Pshit is Naimit Klos Mahani. It's always that a condition from the get-go works. Michael Mashlam, what's the chiddush here? Why does he have to say that they made a condition on the opinion of one person? Yeah, in any condition, even as long as it's explicit, it works. Well, even first club of Das Yachid, also, if they made explicit contingent on that Yachid, why at the time to sell? Does the Tzibur have to agree? So he says this is a way to understand it. Shloyat time before, she wasn't an explicit condition. They put this person in charge of all matters construction of the shul. They should build it on his own cognizance. He should be the one involved in the expenses of the building. In this case, it's as if they gave permission to afterwards whatever he wants. Even to sell it, and to take the money for some mundane purpose. Well, that's why it calls it Tzibur at the time of sale. The the end of the judgment is like the beginning of the judgment. Not literally, of course, but the end of the process is like the beginning of the process. Just like to begin with, there was a consensus of the tzibur concerning him. So too he does afterwards with it. We have to have the consensus of the community. There are those who say the person who says something they built it from their own funds. Then the condition works. If they raise money from elsewhere, from the city, my money died from Bilbao. Why is it good enough to have just their consensus? Maybe the other ones elsewhere in the world do not agree. So the Arukh HaShulchan says, good logic. But if that's the case, why did nobody clarify this previously? Even they built it from their own funds. It's not sold unless they make contingent on a certain individual. They don't name car. And it sounds like certainly where it's coming from other people's funds that can't be sold. And that is going right. That if they're told with das yochid, it does work. Therefore, it says shouldn't even they build from other people's funding. In base kibbutz and the when they were gathering the money, they said should call binyam that all of the building is contingent on this person. So then, kulam nasnu das kain, everybody, including the people outside the city, gave on that cognizance. But if they didn't say this explicitly, then they can't sell even only part of the money came from outside the city. Kedin grach, Shunem metropolis. He says in brackets, Avram might also concede that point. The Mishnah Berurah says, in the Bir Halacha, he says that he wants to say that that Yochid was appointed by the Anshe ear with the Tovei ear. That's what gives him such great authority. Not like the Arukh HaShulchan says, it's just a person who was designated to handle the building. Chavav, Chol Divrei Chen Kol Divrei Kedusha, she's borrowed all the merits, holy stuff, which we spoke about. Kulam Dinan Kain, they're all the same. The Yeshchiluk Ben, Kfarim L'Kravim, is in between the villages and the metropolises. And in the villages, when the selectmen, with the consent of the people of the city, sell these Tashmishi Kedusha, you're allowed to use the money. So to all the furniture of a shul, benches and the curtains, and the curtains go on the arm. Full stop. And the benches and the curtains. But the paroches, the curtain we put in front of the aron, they have the same status as the aron itself. Basic Knesset, that's more reinim kar after tash mishchol. Because the basic Knesset itself can even be sold for a mundane use. So to all those things which serve for mitzvahs, when the soul mutar lishtamish divrei chol k'mo bar, allowed to use the money you're allowed to use them for mundane purposes, as shall be explained. Tashish kedusha, something which was served for kedusha, sefer Torah, k'mo aron brochas, chayetzi bezeh. There's remain with their holiness, gam kshim kurosam, even when they are sold. V'nim korim, and they can be sold rak only. That with the stipulation that the buyer should use them in kedusha, doing the sefer Torah for holiness, which is on a level with the sefer Torah. Because buyers in Mekufnah, as we explain in the next siman. That which we allowed to sell the shul in the village, to have another shul in which to daven. Halacha says that the same thing is that which they permitted to sell. Which have been sells also if they're lacking something which is very pressing, more pressing even than a shul, so they have no sefer Torah to read b'tzibor or reviewing ksuvim, etc. Back to the Arukh HaShulchan. So it has to be when they have another shul. You look, I feel the social they know acher, but it's not even to tear it down to build another one. Also, we know it's also come out actually even also until they may build a new one. We call them first. But I haven't seen kuflin base. Lest they're selling in order to buy with the money another shul. And in a manner in which we're not afraid of negligence, then it's permissible. But in the metropolis, no matter what, it's also. The Mishnah Berurah writes that if it's buy is selling it in order to buy another one, it's permissible to do that based on the selectmen with the people of the city, and otherwise, everybody agrees that Chatchila should not sell it. Okay, back to Arukh HaShulchan. The Zeshu type of kfarim, those who want to say that, which is permitted in the villages, Limkar to sell. Sheyesh them based like Nesses Acher. They have another shul. Hakavana shebeno achshav acheres. Means when now they built another one. Having lo b'no achshav, they didn't build it now. After Yishlaim b'shnei batei beis hakneses, even though they have two shuls, also limkor echad. You can't sell one of them. The afili store echad also was having simukul in the base. You can't destroy one of them. Kosh can corner, so they can't sell one of them. Okay, all this is evidently from the Magen Avraham. I think. Arukh HaShulchan rejects this. He says, does not stay away from the whole Sugi Megillah. But the least are also Padakenu. It's true, they're not allowed to destroy base mess until you have another shul there. The to when, because they allowed you to sell it. But if you want to tear it down, build another choshishu, they're afraid Shema lo yivnu. They might not rebuild again. They're not at all connected. Sale and destruction. The Mishnah Berurah says, the Magen Avraham says, like that he built another one now, but if they have two shuls beforehand, you're not allowed to sell one. But the Taz sounds as matir in this scenario, and the Rabbah and the Gra. But this is only when the shul that they have is sufficiently large to hold everybody. It's not if not, it's partial that it's also because you're not leaving place for people to daven. So long brackets here in the Arukh HaShulchan. Hefech, mashkasav siv katan yud zayin. That which Magen Avraham wrote, the knos kedusha acheres chamura, to buy a more severe kedusha is permissible. Mutar. I feel beinlam beis hakneses acher, even though there's no other shul. It sounded like what the Mishnah Berurah said a few moments ago. He says that that's also astonishing. The Kvarchok Allah Bezali Arabas who can Yuches I Sham came Mash we are there race when narration base Gamash Kasavar Magen Ramsi Kadalam Gimel Sorchil Mash Kasam Mishach V'Tah Sham the Zel B'Pidyon Shvuim Dafkach Mash Kasavar Shach Sham whatever is Pidyon Shvuim is different than anything else. Oh, because it's based on Knesses, or if they collect money for the shul, Mash Kasavar V'Tah Sham Avlichar based on Knesses Shul Kedusha Chamura. But the seller shul for a greater kedusha, which such as Sefer She'enlam based on Knesses Acher, if they know another shul, V'Hadi Lo Shamanu, we never had such a thing B'Tuk, and therefore he argues the Mishnah Berurah says you can do it for a kedusha chamur yoser, and it's true. The Mishnah Berurah says you have to do it with didn't say Shiva till there, but again he argues clearly in the Mishnah Berurah. Chav Gimel, L'Shel Krachim V'Hadi Afilu B'No Acher B'No Acher. By the metropolis, even if you built a new one, you still can't sell the first one. They should little by Bilvad, because it's not dependent on them alone. The Halacha says it's true only what Avraham, but not quite to the Taz. But let's see what he says in Arukh HaShulchan. Now, the Indian Sirshis Barbasim Rekufnum base, in terms of destroying a shul, breaking it down, and Chiluk Ben Kfarim L'Krachim. There's no difference between villages and metropolises. Cambridge and Roadstein. Leave those Acher Mekomas and someone built another one in its place. Came Maich Paslu Arachokim. One of the people who are at distance care, they'll find a shul when they get there. But the stones, the sticks and the stones, and the land retains Kedusha Vasu Shtamish B'hem. Kamachim now allowed to use them and also to sell them. Shemish Echa B'Sof Om Lo Nichol Leish Tifka Kedusha Zon. Maybe somebody at the end of the world doesn't not happy to negate their holiness. So we have Ram. Yeshu Shamatir. We have name Masas Binyamin. Yesh Lachmir. It's better not to. Rabba says in brackets. Rabba Chiyach Masas Binyamin Leheter B'Cholak among Avram. Okay, so he says Yesh Lachmir, but the Evan evidently you can use the sticks and stones, etc. The Mishnah Berurah writes. The Bir Halacha writes. No, that we did already. Sorry. This one, not Mishnah Berurah says the same thing. Okay. Chavdam, Meishir Kosa the Krach Lo Mikael Ir Shasorchim is Kapsi Sham Tadil L'Schera. So some say that a metropolis is a city where the merchants frequently come for commerce, or mitzad Siba Acheres, or another reason, Biskapsi Sham Tadir. People gather there frequently from all over. Come on, area Pelech, like district capitals, etc. Avaman Sharabim Ovrim Derech Sham B'li Yeshiva K'vua B'Yer, that which many people pass through but are not settled or taking up time in the city. That does not make a metropolis. The Malo Orim Shalom Beis HaKnesses Shel Yerzu. Passers by, what do they have to do with this shul? Chol bar lo shlo b'no adaita chuliyama, and if that's since it's clear to us they didn't build it, anytime it's clear to us that they didn't build it with the intent of the entire world, because in Zekvar it's called for this purpose of village. They can sell it. This makes logical. If you say matima tabis manazeh based on knesset shenidona kekrach linazeh. Very few shuls which are those of metropolis. The chishbon based on knesset misor letzibor. Individual built a shul on his own, then gave it to the community. The nikochobah taking this sheba ear. It's like any other shul in the city. So that individual has no right to determine if it should be sold and to how it should be sold. I'm sure that's all boss. But when he gave it to the tzibur, he retained to himself some authority. The shul cannot be sold unless both community and the individual agree. I know pidas and tzibur pidaita. On the basis of it's on the cognizance of the tzibur and according to the cognizance of that individual, or that's your shav, or the cognizance of his heirs kishames when he dies. If he gave, before he died, he gave all of his authority to the tzibur, we don't need their heirs' consent. I'm Sif Lamed Des, which we'll get to not tomorrow night, not in 2 days.